Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a massive question. How in the world do we feed a growing planet? Well, the answer is completely tied up in our most precious resource, water. We're going to look at the agricultural revolution that literally fed the world, but also we'll uncover the hidden costs that came right along with it. So, just to get a sense of the scale of this challenge, check this out. In just the last 40 years, demand for food in the developing world has tripled. Yeah, you heard that right, tripled. That's a growth rate that just absolutely blows population growth out of the water. So that leads to a pretty obvious question, right? How on earth did we manage to keep up with that kind of explosion in demand? I mean, what kind of technology could possibly let us ramp up food production at such a crazy pace? Well, the answer, in one simple but incredibly powerful word, is irrigation. Now, this is an ancient practice, right? Artificially watering crops. But it was completely supercharged in the 20th century, and it totally reshaped global agriculture. You could even say it saved us from widespread famine. Okay, so let's really dive into this because the impact of irrigation has been truly transformative, and it goes way beyond just, making plants less thirsty. The sheer economic power of irrigation is, well, it's staggering. Just look at that difference. On average, irrigated cropland generates more than 6 times the value of land that just relies on rain. For farmers, that is a complete economic game changer. And here's what that looks like on a global scale. Irrigated land, it makes up less than a fifth of all the world's farmland. But, and this is the amazing part, it produces a whopping 40% of our food. That is some serious productivity, and it just goes to show how vital this technology has become. And the benefits just keep stacking up. See, irrigation lets farmers grow crops all year round, not just when it rains. It makes it possible to grow high-value stuff like fruits and vegetables, which stabilizes the food supply against droughts and raises incomes for millions of families. Plus, by making the farmland we already use so much more productive, it's actually helped slow down deforestation. But like with most miracles, there's always a catch. This incredible agricultural revolution, it didn't come for free. It came at a steep environmental price, and it's created a whole new generation of challenges that we're still wrestling with today. This quote, I think, just gets right to the heart of the matter. The problem isn't necessarily that we're running out of water. The real problem is how we've been managing it. Frankly, our methods have been inefficient and, in some cases, incredibly destructive. So yeah, our big success story came with some really serious side effects. We're doing something called water mining. Basically, pumping ancient underground aquifers dry way faster than they can ever recharge. In dry parts of the world, this causes salinization, which is a buildup of salt in the soil that eventually makes it totally useless for growing anything. On top of that, we're washing away nutrients, causing the ground itself to sink, and doing massive damage to entire ecosystems. And the problem isn't just about the quantity of water, it's also about the quality. The runoff from these intensive farms can be a seriously toxic cocktail. All that extra nitrogen from fertilizers, it causes these huge algae blooms that literally choke rivers and lakes. Pesticides kill fish and other aquatic life. And get this, livestock waste alone accounts for almost a fifth of all agricultural water pollution. So with all these challenges piling up on land, where did humanity turn next? Well, we looked to a new frontier to secure our food, the water itself. And that has sparked a whole other food revolution, this time in something called aquaculture. So why the big pivot to farming fish? Well, it boils down to a pretty simple and sobering fact. We just got too good at catching them. For decades now, we've been pulling fish out of the oceans faster than they can possibly reproduce. A lot of the world's most important wild fisheries are really on the brink. And the crazy part is, this is all happening while our appetite for seafood is just exploding. I mean, back in the 60s, the average person ate about 9 kilos of fish a year. By 2018, that number had more than doubled. So we want more and more fish, but the oceans just can't give us any more. And this really gets at the fundamental shift in thinking here. Fishing in the wild, that's basically a hunter-gatherer activity, right? You go out and you hope you find something. Aquaculture, on the other hand, is farming. It's about taking control of the process and actually raising the animals yourself. And this practice, called aquaculture, is incredibly versatile. It covers pretty much everything: fish, shellfish, even seaweed. And it happens in all kinds of places, from freshwater ponds to these massive enclosures way out in the open ocean. Right now, it is the single fastest growing part of the entire global food economy. But, and this is a big but, as we look to aquaculture to solve our food problems, we've got to be careful not to repeat the same mistakes we made on land, because it turns out farming the water comes with its own critical set of environmental trade-offs. You see, not all aquaculture is created equal. On one hand, you have what are called extensive systems. These are low density and they work with the natural environment. But on the other hand, you have intensive systems, which pack fish in at super high densities and rely on artificial feeds to get the most production. And those can create their own pollution and disease problems, just like we saw on land. So in the end, it doesn't really matter if we're talking about farming on land or farming in the water. We are left with what is maybe the great dilemma of our time. We need more food for a growing population, but our planet's resources are finite. Finding that balance between production and preservation, well, that isn't just an agricultural challenge, it's one of the defining questions for the entire future of humanity.